We begin in Indonesia, where power outages and landslides are hindering the search for survivors of a deadly earthquake. Fallen trees and debris are blocking access to many areas where civilians are still believed to be trapped. Now, the 5.6 magnitude quake struck the main island of Java, killing at least 162 people and injuring hundreds more. Authorities say some of the victims were students at an Islamic boarding school who had just finished their classes.
Brick by brick, rescue teams search through the wreckage for signs of life. Many here in Cianjur, close to the epicenter of the quake, were left trapped inside their homes, schools and businesses as buildings caved in or collapsed. This just one of the hundreds that have been reduced almost entirely to rubble. For some of those who did make it out alive, this is where they have spent the night, a makeshift emergency ward in a hospital car park. IV drips hung by whatever means possible, and medical teams left needing torchlight to help treat the injured. Amongst those receiving care is 48-year-old Kuku.
I have 7 children, and one of them hasn't been found. The children were downstairs, and I was upstairs getting laundry. Everything collapsed beneath me, and I was crushed. My house is flattened.
More medical staff are now urgently needed to help deal with the sheer number of injured that continue to arrive. Most have suffered broken bones or wounds caused by falling debris. The military has been drafted in to help, but authorities say landslides are hampering the relief effort.
There's still an area that's not been evacuated because the road is completely blocked by a landslide, so they can't be evacuated yet.
The number of dead and injured is expected to rise over the coming days as search and rescue teams reach more isolated areas, with authorities facing a mammoth task to find food and shelter for the thousands now left displaced and homeless.
DW correspondent Sharon Sumalang is in the affected area near the epicenter of the quake. Rescue efforts are taking place there, and she sent us this report just minutes ago.
Currently, I'm at one of the most affected areas, which is the village of Cianjur in the district of Cugenang, near the epicenter of the earthquake that happened yesterday that hit West Java. And right now, the evacuation process is being paused because the aftershocks are still happening until now. As you can see, many people are being pushed back. They have to find a safer place because the aftershock just happened right before I did my live reporting. And until this morning, they reported 127 aftershocks have happened since yesterday. I've also talked to several families that are still waiting for their family members. There's nowhere to be found now, and at least there are 30 people that are still trapped under the rubble over there. So the evacuation process have to be very careful because there are still many dead bodies that is under the wreckage, and also they're trying to open the access of the road so that the evacuation process can be continued to the more steep areas over there where it is possibly worse than what happened here.
For more, we can speak to DW's Prita Kusuma Putri, who is in Jakarta. Hi, Prita. Can you tell us about the situation in the affected area? What's happening right now?
Yeah, as to the information I received from our reporters on the ground, Sharon Margaret Sumalang, who's been on location since this morning, at least 103 people have died and 7,000 have been evacuated and hundreds have been injured. And the evacuation process is still ongoing now, especially in the heavily affected areas. But you can see so many people are still, so many families are still trying to find their loved ones because authorities are afraid that so many people are still trapped under the rubble. And, with that assumption, the authorities also stated that the number of deaths and injured will rise in times. And the authorities also stated that there had been 127 aftershocks.
So the rescue efforts are continuing despite these aftershocks. Do you know if people are still being found alive?
So, yeah, the evacuation process is still ongoing, but they face the challenges because the soil is now very soft and sticky because it immediately rains after the earthquake, and the rescuers need more heavy equipment. But the thing is, they cannot operate it in a fast way because they don't need to only open the roads, but they need to be very careful because they need to also find bodies that may be still strapped under the landslide.
Can you tell us a bit about how authorities have been managing the needs of the survivors?
So the government has set up shelters for the evacuees, and also the governments make sure that they will provide assistance to residents whose house were affected by these earthquakes. And also the President Joko Widodo himself emphasizes that they need to build a building that has the resistance buildings, especially when the earthquake like this happens, because what happened in the area is that people build their own house with just easy and simple materials like bricks and wood, so that when earthquake like this happens, it could easily collapse.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. DW's Preeta Kusumaputri, thank you so much for that.